Tantor Audio, a division of Recorded Books, presents Bound to be Dead by Tamra Baumann. Narrated by C.S.E. Cooney. Chapter 1. Agreeing to let my dad throw knives at me while he's blindfolded might not have been the smartest decision I've made in my 32 years here on Earth. Yes, he's a magician, and it's all part of his show. But still, it isn't like a trick hasn't gone wrong before, and he hasn't done this one in a very long time. "Sawyer Davis, you've got to learn to say no," I whisper to myself as I lean back against a giant painted bullseye. Forcing a smile, I try to calm my nerves, while my dad straps my hands and legs onto the big wheel. Then he flips a switch to make the target spin. The crowd at our little community theater in Sunset Cove goes from right side up to upside down, making me so dizzy I might lose my lunch. I probably should have waited until after the magic show to eat, but the trick never bothered me when I was a kid. When I was much smaller and left more room for the knives to pierce the wood, we really should have practiced the trick at least once. If our annual talent show weren't for a good cause, I would have bailed on the show and my dad for sure. My tall father, who looks fetching in his dark suit, long cape, and with dramatic white streaks at his temples, steps a few paces away. He picks up a blindfold and calls out, "Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, do not try this trick at home. Only those with true magic can successfully perform this fantastic feat. Are you ready, Sawyer?" Not really, but I nod for the sake of the show, careful not to move too much, or my costume might slip down. Dad's usual assistant has implants, looks like a Playboy bunny, and properly fills out the skimpy spandex costume I'm wearing. I'm a solid B on top, and I'm afraid I might have a wardrobe malfunction on the next rotation. I wish Dad would hurry up and get the trick over with before everyone in town gets first-hand knowledge that my body parts are what I was born with. My nausea level continues to rise as my father, Max the Magnificent, makes a show of slicing paper so the audience will know the knives are real. The faces of the talent show's judges spinning before me aren't helping my tummy matters. The judging panel consists of Emily Kingsley, the wife of the town's merchant association's chief rule enforcer, Joe Kingsley. She grimaces like she's worried my brains might be getting overmixed. Or maybe because she knows my dad well enough to know things could go terribly wrong in the next few minutes. The second judge, Patty, our local hairdresser, is wearing her signature pink, making me wish I had an antacid, that same color. And the third judge is my mean Uncle Frank, smiling like he's enjoying my humiliation. Actually, I'm sure he is enjoying my pain. Still smiling through gritted teeth, I hiss, "Get on with it, Dad!" He winks at me before he pulls his blindfold up and over his eyes. With a shiny, sharp knife in his hand, he says, "Count with me, everyone. Ready? 1, 2, 3. He flips his wrist in a way he's spent hours practicing, and a thump sounds next to my head. 1 knife down, 4 more to go. I'm not sure my stomach or my costume can take much more. Applause fills the air, causing my dad to tap a finger against his lips. "This takes all my concentration, folks." He waves a knife in the air and says, "Silencio, please." My dad is such a drama queen. I guess that's why he's a performer. Me? I'm a chef who has inherited a mystery bookshop from my recently dearly departed mother. I'm secretly working on a plan to open my own restaurant, figuring out what to do with my ex, who happens to be the town's sheriff, and how to be a good surrogate mother for my newly adopted 15-year-old sister. But all my life's complications pale when compared to being strapped to this giant spinning wheel like a crazy person. Suddenly, the audience quiets, and everyone leans closer to the stage to see if the next knife is going to miss and pierce my heart. At least if that happened, it'd hold up my top. I wouldn't die with silver spandex pooled at my waist. After another successful knife throw lands above my head, my fingers and toes are becoming numb from the straps. But, by some miracle, my top has stayed put, so I'm grateful. Only one more trick after this one, and I can exit stage right. At that point, my dad will be on his own to finish the show with a bang. Literally. He's going to shoot himself out of a cannon and into a vat of ice cream outside. My father somehow convinced my Uncle Frank, the mayor, to spring for the crazy contraption because it's a fundraiser. If you ask me, my dad should shoot Uncle Frank, who's been trying to run me out of town and steal the contents of my inherited trust from the cannon. But we can't have everything we wish for. Next, my dad makes a show of holding up 2 knives. Now, I'll attempt to throw both of these knives at once. Cross your fingers and toes, ladies and gentlemen. This is the most dangerous attempt so far. I close my eyes and screw up my features to make myself look scared as my dad grunts, and 2 more knives magically appear at my waist. 1 blade on each side, just as planned. It garners thunderous applause from the crowd, while my dad prances around the stage, whipping his cape around with all the flair of a matador. After another bow, my dad holds up a finger. Ladies and gentlemen, for the last knife, I'm going to do something special for my hometown crowd. It's only worked once. So, will you all please cross your fingers for Sawyer? As my dad turns his back on me and winds up to throw the last knife over his shoulder, a louder than normal thump sounds, causing me to glance at my feet. The blade is sticking out between my high heels, but my dad never threw the knife in his hand. Whoops. Tina in the back must have pushed the button too soon. She has one job, to push the button when my father yells out 3. It's tough getting good help these days. While people's faces crunch in bewilderment, my dad quickly tosses the knife on the table beside him, tugs off his blindfold, and trots over to release me. To cover the mistake, my dad bellows, "With the power of magical misdirection, you all watched the knife in my right hand, didn't you? But I threw one with my left, making this trick even more difficult. How about a big round of applause for Sawyer?" Slow applause builds as people are seemingly trying to decide if they believe my father or not. I'm so dizzy I have to hang on to my dad as he removes the straps from my ankles. When he's done, he whispers, "Now give the crowd some razzle-dazzle, like you mean it." Brother, I hate this part most. I force another big smile and lift my hands above my head in a silent ta-da gesture, and then strut around the stage like a prize pony at a horse show, just the way my dad taught my sister and me when we were kids. Not wanting to make eye contact with anyone, my gaze drifts toward the back of the auditorium. Dylan, our town's sheriff and the man I have a complicated relationship with, is standing in the rear. For a moment, I'm grateful for a friendly face, but he's not even trying to contain his amusement. The tall, dark, and built sheriff is smiling from ear to ear, either because he knows strutting is not my style, or because this is the one and only time he'll ever see me in spandex. His eyebrows hitch in appreciation, so yeah, it's probably the spandex. When the applause reaches a thunderous level, my dad's face lights up again with pride. I'm not sure how I'll ever show my face in public again. Dad takes a sweeping bow, then stands up and turns as white as the starched shirt he's wearing. When his eyes start to roll into the back of his head, I take off across the stage in my high heels to save him before he faints. He has a habit of doing that now and then. Dad calls out, "Dylan, come quick, it's blood," as his knees threaten to buckle. Luckily, I reach my father before he crumples into a total heap, I grab his arm and help him slowly to the floor. "What's wrong, Dad?" He throws a hand over his eyes and points with the other one toward the bullseye I was just strapped to. "Tell me that's not what I think it is." Dark liquid pools from under the black curtain behind the wooden bullseye. It's where Tina was standing and pushing the buttons to release the knives. They mechanically shoot from the back of the target. My dad doesn't really throw anything. The blades he shows the audience get artfully tucked into a pocket inside his cape. At the same time, someone else stands behind the drapes and pushes the remote to activate the blades on the target. Could that puddle be oil from the motor that turns the oversized bullseye? I leave my dad's side and move closer to the ever-growing pool of dark liquid. The metallic tang in the air confirms it's not motor oil. It's blood. My stomach takes a dive. I hate the sight of blood too, but I have to help whoever's bleeding. Just as I head to the curtain, Dylan's big hand wraps around my arm to stop me. He says, "Help your dad. I got this." Okay. I turn around and nearly bump into Uncle Frank. He glances at the blood and then quickly jogs toward my father. Ripping the lapel mic from my dad's suit, Uncle Frank leans down and says, "Who'd like to see Max get shot into a huge vat of ice cream? Let's all head to the parking lot to watch the show. Renee even offered free scoops for anyone who makes a donation." A cheer goes up from the crowd as people rise and head for the doors. Dylan reappears and takes the mic from my uncle. "Everyone, take your seats, please. There's been an accident. I need everyone to stay put for a few minutes so we can get the EMTs in and out quickly." He motions with his head to one of his deputies in the audience to man the back doors. My Uncle Frank, who's tall, big-boned, and bald-headed, says, "We need their donations. Why are you making them worry?" Dylan ignores the question and heads toward the curtains again. My uncle calls out, "Hey, are you forgetting who signs your paychecks?" Dylan growls, "You need to stay put too, Mayor," before he disappears behind the curtain. That's one of the things I love about Dylan. He won't be threatened by anyone, even at the cost of losing his job. My father seems recovered, and I don't like being anywhere near my uncle, so I follow Dylan's path to see what's going on. I push the curtain aside, slip behind it, and stop. Tina is lying on the wooden stage with her eyes open. Blood is pooling behind her head, and she doesn't appear to be breathing. Now I really might lose my lunch. I lay a hand on a stack of boxes to support my wobbly knees until I can pull myself together again. After my heart rate has settled, I glance at Tina again. But this time, I'm filled with sympathy. My dad dated Tina, but they recently had a friendly breakup. She's a nice woman. My friend, and the leader of my store's book club, Admiral Wright, is by her side, so I ask, "What happened? Did she fall?" He slowly meets my gaze. "I'm supposed to be keeping people away for Dylan, but I suppose you don't count, being his girlfriend. Just don't get too close, please, sailor." He calls me sailor instead of Sawyer for some unknown reason, and he used to date my mom. He's either a genius retired naval officer or losing the marbles he has left. No one is quite sure. The Admiral stands and swipes the dust from his pressed slacks. He's wearing his usual cardigan sweater and a familiar, confused look in his eyes. He says, "She fell and hit her head, but she seemed to be in distress before she collapsed. Heart attack, perhaps. I was across the stage when I heard her yelp. By the time I got here to assist, she wasn't moving." The Admiral's forehead crumples with sadness. I don't want to gawk at Tina, but I can't help another look. She still has the big switch to pop the knives out in her right hand. When she fell, she must have hit the button for the last blade to pop out too soon. I whisper, "Tina is barely in her 50s and seems fit, way too young for a heart attack." "I agree." The Admiral points to a pink rose lying beside Tina's left hand. I thought she yelped because she poked herself with a thorn. You can see there's still a drop of blood there." He points to Tina's index finger. "But then her eyes grew wide, and I realized something else must be wrong. I regret I don't move as fast as I used to. Perhaps I could have saved her from hitting her head." The tears in the Admiral's eyes make mine mist, too. I lay a hand on his back and give him a quick pat. "I'm sure there was nothing you could have done, Admiral. It sounds like it happened too fast." He slowly nods. "Maybe." Dylan and 2 paramedics arrive, so the Admiral and I move to the back where all the people helping with the show are lined up. Deputy Ben is asking everyone questions about Tina and if they saw anything before she collapsed. Uncle Frank's voice over the speakers out front announces my father will do more tricks outside to keep the crowd entertained. I should probably be a good assistant and help my father, but I feel compelled to stay in the back and help there if I can. One of the paramedics says, "I've got a heartbeat, some shallow breathing." They both spring into action to save Tina. I hope they can. The Admiral leans close. How is that possible? Her eyes are wide open, and she wasn't blinking. Before I can tell him I have no clue, Dylan slips by my side and whispers, "How did Tina end up running the trick? I thought you were going to do it." "I was, but my dad's assistant had a family emergency a few days ago, so he asked Tina if she'd run the back. Of course, he waited until this morning to ask me to help him out front, so I couldn't say no." A frown creases Dylan's forehead. "Who helped your dad set up this prop?" "I don't know. It was together when I got here." Pete, the local barber, and the volunteer stage manager joins us. "Couldn't help but overhear your questions, Sheriff. The mayor helped Max set up the trick." Pete is stout, has a handlebar mustache, and is the nosiest man I've ever met. There's more gossip at his barbershop than at Patty's beauty parlor by far. And that's saying a lot. But my uncle can't stand my father, so I ask, why would Uncle Frank help Dad? Pete lifts a big shoulder. "Everyone else was busy, and Max was clogging up space with his parts. You know the mayor wouldn't let anything stop his fundraiser from starting on schedule." That's true. My uncle is a tyrant for his schedules. After the paramedics rush Tina away, Pete gives his mustache a nervous twist. "They were having some electrical issues with the trick at first, but then they finally got it up and running. It was like the blind leading the blind, if you ask me." I ask Dylan, "Do you think Tina was electrocuted? Would that explain her eyes?" "Not sure. Best to document the scene just in case." Dylan turns to Pete. "Who had access to the backstage area before and during the show?" "Well, let me think." Pete chews his lower lip. "All the performers, the mayor, and the judges, of course." He turns to me. "The ladies all stopped by to admire those beautiful flowers from your mom's place." He smiles and holds a hand toward a table at the rear. "I can't take any credit. The Admiral arranged them." I turn to Dylan. "My uncle asked me to give the women judges and Tina bouquets of roses from my mother's hothouse for helping with the talent show. The Admiral has been helping me care for the flowers, so I can concentrate on keeping my inherited crumbling Victorian house in one piece." Dylan says, "Everything, including those flowers, is staying put for the moment. Admiral, will you let the mayor know he can take the show outside now?" "Will do." The Admiral heads to the stage, and then Dylan takes out his phone and starts taking pictures. Pete leans down and whispers, "I didn't want to say anything in front of the sheriff because of the affair and all, but I saw some folks switch the name tags on those flowers. That's how Tina ended up with the pink ones instead of Patty. Probably doesn't matter, but I figured you might notice the switch and wonder." The name tags are the least of my concern. "What affair are you talking about?" "Tina's." Pete turns 3 shades of red. "I figured you knew. Tina gave him an ultimatum to leave his wife, or she was going to go public. If that isn't a motive for attempted murder, I don't know what is. I saw him switch the name tags, too. My father has never married, so that's not who Pete's talking about. Who was Tina having an affair with? Dylan reappears by my side and says, "Your Uncle Frank." Uncle Frank? Cheating with Tina? While she was dating Dad? Until a week ago? I turn to Dylan. My mother once told me my aunt and uncle have a prenup with a cheating clause. If Uncle Frank cheats, my aunt gets 3/4 of everything my uncle has. I doubt he'd risk it. Dylan's brows arch. Maybe that's why your uncle has been trying to gain control of the trust your mom left you. He'd lose a lot if Tina told your Aunt Carol everything. Tina telling my aunt about the affair would be a major motive for attempted murder. Uncle Frank can be a real jerk. But could he actually try to kill someone? Chapter 2. Dylan and his men are taking pictures backstage, while I'm still rooted in my spot, processing the news about my uncle and Tina. He's done some underhanded things to my family and me, but I can't wrap my head around attempted murder. The thought sends a shiver up my spine. Madge, our police dispatcher, arrives and snaps me out of my dark thoughts. Even though it's barely November, she's wearing one of her handmade year-round Christmas sweaters. This one has a tilted snowman on the front. Maybe Frosty had too much eggnog to drink. The always-in-a-hurry brunette skids to a stop. What the heck is going on? And why isn't Dylan talking? The scanner said someone died on the way to the hospital. Died? Oh no. They weren't able to save Tina after all. My heart hurts for her family. I don't know what happened. One minute Tina was helping with my dad's tricks, and the next she was dead. Sort of. Madge's forehead crumples. Sort of? I quickly fill her in on Tina's staring eyes, and then the affair. I need to call my sister and ask about Tina's condition, but first I need to find my father. I want to know what Tina told him when she broke things off last week. Madge nods. Yeah, Meg, being a brain surgeon, she should be able to shine some light. Madge lowers her voice. If Frank did this, I hope he won't find a way out of trouble like he always does, and he'll finally get his due. Me too. My uncle makes my life so miserable sometimes. But I wish Tina hadn't had to die to make that happen. Madge and I cross the backstage area, scooting around Dylan's deputies working the scene. Would they be so busy if they thought it was a simple accident? We're almost to the rear door when Madge says, "Nice outfit, by the way. You should wear tight things like that more often. Might speed up whatever is happening between you and Dylan." I shake my head. Dylan and I are keeping things casual for now. Dylan would like to speed things up, but I'm still cautious with my bruised heart. Speaking of my boyfriend, Dylan, looking cute in his uniform, appears before us and blocks the door. "Hold up, Nancy Drew and Miss Marple." He lifts a hand. "I recognize the look in your eyes." Madge frowns. Am I supposed to be Miss Marple in this scenario? She's like 80 years old. I still qualify as middle-aged, thank you very much. She harumphs. Yeah, I add, and Nancy Drew is a teenager. We object to your characterization of our characters. Noted. Dylan's right brow pops. What trouble are you two about to cause me? We're just looking for my father. It's hard to look too offended while sparkling in spandex, but I lift my chin anyway. He's covered in ice cream if the trick worked, or bleeding if it didn't work. Either way, he probably needs a towel. I wave a hand down my body. As you can see, I'm still on the job. And yet you don't have a towel. I'll join you. I'd like to ask Max a few questions, too. Dylan is on to us, as usual. He opens the door for us to pass by and whispers to me, "For the record, I like that outfit a lot better than your chef's coat." A corner of his mouth tilts. Noted. I lead the way out the door while he and Madge troop behind. Dylan hates when Madge and I get involved with his cases. But this is personal. My family's involved. Dylan says, "Out of respect, let's not discuss Tina's death, ladies. We're still trying to get a hold of her family." Madge and I both nod in understanding before we weave through the people surrounding a big cannon. My father's trick must have worked because he's waving to the crowd, covered head to toe in vanilla ice cream. When he sees us, he climbs out of the plexiglass box he landed in and hurries toward us. "The mayor told me Tina fell. Any word on how she's doing?" Dad wipes away the ice cream still dripping from his chin. Madge and I both look to Dylan to answer the question. "Nothing I can report," he says. "I hear you had some trouble with the bullseye, electrical problems." "That thing's always been persnickety." My dad waves a hand. "I wiggle the cords and it falls in line." Dylan nods. "I've called an electrician to check it out. I'd appreciate it if you'd leave all your gear as is because of the accident. I'll let you know when you can collect it." "Well, make it quick." Dad crosses his arms. "I have a gig day after tomorrow. Some of us show up when we promise to do so." Oh boy, that's my cue to intervene. I send Dylan an apologetic look before I turn to my father. "Dad, please, can't you just let it go?" Dylan had good reasons for not showing up for our planned wedding 8 years ago. I found out much later he was protecting me from something Dylan's father had done that might have ruined all our lives. Dylan did the right thing to keep me out of it. My dad just refuses to accept that. "I'm not letting anything go until he marries you like he promised." My dad lifts his chin. It'd make a stubborn 2-year-old proud. "He's already asked me again. I said no." I glance Dylan's way again. "For now." "What?" Madge's eyes grow wide. "How do I not know this? Deets, please." Madge's enthusiastic jumping makes the crooked snowman on her sweater jiggle too. My dad's hands fly to his hips. "A gentleman would have asked my permission first." Dylan closes his eyes and runs a hand down his face. "I asked you 8 years ago, Max. You said when pigs fly, remember?" He opens his eyes again. "Can we get back to the accident, please?" "I meant it at the time. You both were too young," my dad grumbles. "But, yes, back to poor Tina. I feel terrible she got hurt by doing me a favor." I hope my face doesn't give Tina's death away. I've never been good at hiding my emotions, so I quickly say, "I didn't ask before, but why did you guys break up? You're obviously still on good terms." Dad smiles. "Yes, we're still friends. I'm friendly with all my exes because I always let them break up with me." Dylan tucks his thumbs into his utility belt. "How do you manage that?" "I go on very long road gigs." Dad digs out a handkerchief from inside his suit coat that's connected to 4 more colored pieces of cloth until he gets to the end. He wipes the rest of the ice cream from his face. "By the time I get back in town, they realize that having a relationship with a traveling entertainer leaves them home alone on too many date nights." Dad winks at Madge. "They always let me down gently." "I bet," Madge says with a grin. "Why weren't you happy with your relationship with Tina?" Dad's forehead crumples. "I wasn't unhappy, but she said she'd met someone else and wanted to pursue it. She asked if we could stay friends." Because she was probably just using my dad as a beard for her secret relationship with Uncle Frank. Everyone in town knows Dad is charming and kind, but isn't one to settle down in one spot for long. My mom said she'd always love my dad, but she'd never marry him. And she never did. I ask, "Did Tina say who it was she'd met?" Dad shakes his head. I didn't ask. I figured it just wasn't meant to be between us. Now, if you'll
Sample complete. Ready to continue?